to be able to capture our reality in the fire service or the public safety domain for search and rescue operations that are going on right now, and to assist those type of actions, but to also learn from those incidents and train the future firefighters and responders on that exact incident, down to the details, to the point where we can literally rewind that incident and show exactly what happened, when it happened, where it happened, and how we reacted to it. So my goal is to try and find these new emerging technologies, to use them to the best of their ability and enhance what we already have, and adoption of that technology. My name is Josh Wilkins. I am a retired firefighter after 27 years in San Bernardino County Fire Department. That's located in Southern California, and if it helps, it's the one that's always on fire. And in fact, it's still on fire as we speak. I'm a second-generation firefighter. My dad, he also served 32 years. Combined, we served about 50 years with the San Bernardino County Fire Department. So it's kind of ingrained and embedded. That's all I ever knew since I grew up. Born and raised in the fire station, went to Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays, you name it, were in the fire service. So when I retired, which was probably one of the hardest things I ever did, because literally it's all I ever knew, I was truly trying to find what my purpose was after that. And I think I'm finding out more and more it's common, even with the military, they have kind of the same problem, is saying, where do I go from here? And what I found is my love for technology and solving big problems. And that's what led me to this stage. This group of folks in this community that Matt and the RCN group has built is very intriguing to the fire service and myself specifically. The reason being is capturing reality, it sounds like a fantasy, or it's not really something you can use except for maybe in a game or something like that. But to me, to be able to capture our reality in the fire service or the public safety domain is so important. And especially right now, as we speak in Tampa, there is a new reality for a lot of folks. And some for this, that are here in this room, they have homes that are in a different state than when they left. Those are the type of the reality captures that I'm interested in. One, for the rescue operations, search and rescue operations that are going on right now, and to assist those type of actions, but to also learn from those incidents and train the future firefighters and responders on that exact incident, down to the details. We could literally, to the point where we can literally rewind that incident and show exactly what happened, when it happened, where it happened, and how we reacted to it. Literally one of the best inventions in sports was the playback. And we want to bring that to the fire service or the public safety space. Reality capture is key to doing that. With the fire service is basically, it's a paramilitary organization. It was created basically modeled after the military. The problem is, with the military, they're about 20 years ahead in technology and adoption of that technology. We adopted a lot of the tactics. We use a pincer attack in the fire service, just like they do in the military. A lot of different terminologies. They have a battleground, we have a fireground. They have troops, we have firefighters. They have tanks, we have fire trucks. And they have attack helicopters, we've got water dropping helicopters. We both have common problems, logistics. Just like in the military, in a war, if you cut off the supply chain, the battle space, you have a potential to lose. Same thing goes with the military, with the fire service. If we run out of folks or logistics or supplies in fighting large wildfires like the one smoldering just a few miles away, we may lose, in this case, more homes, more communities, and potentially more lives. So the commonalities are amazing, but the sad part is the technology and the disconnect are not. One, because of budgets. Military budgets are obviously much bigger than ours. The problem is the technology have been increased as far as cost. You know, the DoD prices versus consumer prices don't necessarily match up. So my goal is to try and find these new emerging technologies, especially in the consumer space or in this space, and bring them across to the public safety space to use them to the best of their ability and enhance what we already have. Not to replace them, but just to enhance our decision support and our operations and response. This is the campfire. For those who are not familiar with it, in 2018, a large wildfire basically decimated the town of Paradise in California. 85 people lost their lives, and this all happened in a matter of hours. This image right here, this is where the town is. Fire started up here, unfortunately near a power line, ran up a hill, and then just directly into this town. The smoke, prevented a lot of folks to actually see what was going on or understand where the fire was in relationship to them. And a lot of things went wrong. And we need to try and change how we react to these and how we respond to these, both on the public side. How can we inform the public properly and timely to where they can get out of the way and save themselves while we can come in and save their property. Like as we speak, there's still, I think, 37 fires nationally, and a lot of them are affecting communities and still right now taking out communities. We're looking at better ways to create information systems to notify these folks. No different than an abduction alert we get on our phones. We'll be at Walmart and everybody's phone alert goes off for a child abduction. We need to have that same thing for wildfire evacuations, tsunamis, all that kind of stuff. And this is something that we're trying to model. This is the reality that we're trying to map. We're trying to capture exactly where the enemy is in the military terms, where the fire is, and show folks where it is in real time in relationship to themselves and or to the troops so they can make the best decisions, but also to preserve, just like evidence, in a crime scene where the forensics are being used in reality capture. We're trying to capture this for future generations to learn from so we don't make the same mistakes. Unfortunately, we've lived this again in Lahaina, and this year we've had multiple fires, including San Bernardino County, where we had both those large fires, the line fire and the bridge fire, that have just devastated homes and communities. So this is the reality capture that I've been focused on. And I know that, being the built environment, the digital twins, sometimes are relevant, sometimes are not. In this case, this is what excites me, is to create a public safety digital twin, if you might, to where we can have integrated with it the hyperlocal weather. Not just the general weather, for the area, but the hyperlocal weather that's going to determine where that fire is going to go, how fast it's going to go, how much time do we have to evacuate. IoT sensors, we've got some amazing sensors out there now, whether it's a wildfire camera that detects using AI, or smoke sensors, or all kinds of new sensors coming out, obviously integrated as well. Satellite imagery, as much as possible with the best revisit rates and highest resolution can be overlaid onto this to give us context. And basically where the current fire perimeter is. And the fire perimeter is our biggest hurdle as we speak right now. We can only get a snapshot of where that fire is. Imagine a 100,000 acre fire, and trying to capture where that fire perimeter is in real time is pretty tough. So right now we have to fly an aircraft over the top of it with a specialized sensor once every 24 hours, if we're lucky, to get a picture of where that perimeter would be. We're working on getting that down to just minutes. And soon we'll have actually a constellation that'll actually be tracking that worldwide within about 2 years. But these are all the different inputs that we can now put into our wildfire digital twin. Now for first responders and stakeholders, government officials, now we can all understand the same exact picture. We're not trying to describe something, and it's not subject to interpretation anymore. It's a physical image of what is the problem in relationship to whoever's looking at it. And it's a living, breathing document. But in this case, we can actually immerse ourselves in that event and even show predictions on where this event might go. What ifs? What if we put a fire line over here? What if we evacuate this town ahead of time? How much time will that buy us? Let's hit play, based on the weather and everything else and the fuel models. Problem is, in the fire service, and this is one of the famous quotes of the fire service, over 100 years of tradition, unimpeded by progress. And that is, I'm sure if anybody's tried to sell or even show fire service or public service entities, sometimes they're really ingrained in what they do, and it's really hard to change their mindset on stuff. Speaking on tradition, obviously I'm holding up mine. This is not only a family tradition, but when in doubt, if there's a person with a mustache, they must be a firefighter. So, but the public safety digital twins is what I feel is going to be the next generation. And maybe incorporating this with the smart cities initiatives that are coming out right now, and taking all that, as they're building these smart cities with the sensors already integrated, why not include the public safety aspect for it? And where it's automatic, and obviously in the unbuilt environment, the vegetation and stuff like that, it's going to need to be modeled, whether it's Gaussian splats like Overhead 4D does. Large, LiDAR missions, which, as everybody knows, the point clouds for that would be immense, and the computing power would be insane. But the need is there. Canada has actually done that for almost their entire forested area, and it's showing massive benefit. Obviously, it was a huge lift, but for the forest industry and for the fire industry, it's showing really good return on investment, and a really good context for those trying to understand what the problem really is. Is it the understory that we need to mitigate? Is it the buildings that we've now encroached into the forested area that, and we're wondering why are all these communities burning up? And we can go, hours and hours on just that alone, but those are the type of problems that we're trying to bring context to. And it's the hardest thing in the world when I try to describe somebody what a campfire might look like in, just outside of Boise here in one of our small towns. They've never seen it before. It's really hard for them to relate an event like that. But once you create a digital twin, they can now relate and emotionally attach to what you're talking about. The message comes through clear and quick. I'm not sure if anybody's seen the videos for the hurricanes. The news have been using lately on the augmented video effects. They'll be standing on stage, or standing in the green screen behind them and actually showing the flood, flood levels at 5 feet, at 9 feet, at 15 feet, and what that would look like in reality. That's been one of the most effective ways to portray that urgency, to get folks to just listen and evacuate, where some are just like, no, we'll be fine. But once they have that context of, wow, I couldn't survive that, there's no way. That was one of the best things, and you'll hear that over and over again from the Florida folks, how powerful that is. So the goal is now is to make something like that in other areas, in this case, wildfire. It could be a tsunami, it could be any other disaster event. But to utilize the reality capture techniques, technology, and manpower to enable systems like this. So not only can we learn from it, we can, truly come from one source of information instead of trying to, interpret different ideas that are going around. This is a gentleman, David Caballero. He's based in Spain. He's done some amazing research and work in bringing these realities into, in this case, it's just cesium. And it's using Google Tiles. So it's not super high resolution as anywhere to what we can achieve now, especially in this space. And he's actually modeling a fire that existed based on where the fire was, what the weather was at the time. So now if we can do this in real time and get a true perspective, just like what we're doing here, the public can now understand, okay, now there's a big problem here and it's coming towards us. I could see my house, I could see our church. The urgency level now goes up. If you're staring at this and you know this ground, your emotions and your vital signs are actually reacting to it, your heart rate, your blood pressure. That is what we want. For the firefighters, especially if they're not from the area, if they're able to view this and understand, okay, the terrain that we're engaging in is heavily canopied, along with some intertwined homes in there. There's also some water towers and other different things that we can now, before we even get there, understand what we're about to do and deploy the resources in the proper way without, and this could be at night. But if we get context in a reality like this before we actually engage, we can do a lot of work, a lot of amazing work. But this is just one, and so imagine this now. And I apologize, there was a couple things that I wasn't able to include in this just due to time, but now overlay where the aircraft are, based on the ADS-B information that we have, where the weather direction and the wind speed, what the relative humidity is, where the communities are, where our water sources are, and then where our troops are in real time, overlaid on that same exact image. So again, that's the public safety reality capture that excites me. And utilizing, obviously, the technologies that you guys are interfacing with and using and developing, that's why I'm excited to be here. Context equals clarity, especially during chaos. As soon as you can, if we can get context and grasp on what the true problem is, because most firefighters or first responders, we show up to something that we did not create. In this case, the tornado or the hurricane, we did not create that, and so they're showing up in their own fire district to a complete new world. So they're trying to grasp, okay, what do we have? What resources do I have? And how do we attack this as fast as possible? Because obviously time matters. Minutes count. And if we can portray that context in the way that is accurate, not 2 centimeter accurate, but accurate enough to where we can make the right decisions based on the spatial information, we can have it to where it's a heads up information, to where we're not having to try and interpret and looking down at a tablet or a computer or a map and trying to interpret, okay, what am I looking at? Instead of just a glance. I can look down, okay, I got it. I know that's this, that's that, that's that. Heads up information. Decision support. With AI and all that kind of fun stuff, we get a lot of folks that are weary on, it's going to take our jobs, or we don't want anything to do with AI making decisions for us. I agree. But it can augment our decisions. It can be decision support. And AI can sort through stuff in milliseconds, where it might take us hours, if not days, especially at the scale of hurricane, like what's going on right now, or a wildfire with 150,000 acres covering 2 forests and 4 communities, and you get the point. So AI can help us in sorting through this data, this information, the IoT sensor information, in a matter of seconds, just by asking it, what is my relative humidity on Division Zulu? Or how many down power poles do I have on Sector 5? Or is there a hospital, or was there a hospital within my coordinated area that I've been assigned? Information like that would obviously determine, okay, what is my priorities here? If there's a hospital, I need to be focusing on that. I need to be focusing on evacuating or searching and rescuing those folks first. So, creating a personal connection, again, we touched on that earlier. If you can actually engage them enough to where it's an emotional connection, whether it's an image of something they're familiar with, or that they've been through, and sometimes it could be traumatic, but we want to make that emotional connection to where now there is no question that this is their new reality. If we're trying to direct them to evacuate or to mitigate a problem, in this case, wildfires, we're overgrown with vegetation around our homes. And when fires do come in, if we had that vegetation mitigated, and maybe we've hardened our homes a little bit, we wouldn't be losing houses, or entire communities. So telling that story using data like this to basically illustrate, it's not the trees themselves, it's the vegetation underneath. It's the vegetation that actually will light, down here, that's been growing for years and years and years, because we've always put out fires rapidly. That this has become so overgrown that now there's a ladder right to the large canopies, whereas normally it would just slowly burn in here. So that's just another story that we can tell to convince hundreds, if not thousands of people that we need to do something about this, to be proactive. And hopefully never get to the incident where the fire is burning through the community and we need to evacuate it, immediately. But what these bring, true context and clarity to the folks that just didn't understand it before, and now they have that aha moment. At the same time, we can also gamify these. As we know, this whole next generation, they've all used that. They have the controllers in their hands and heck, VR on their heads. So they're used to, playing games. Now, if we could teach them how to, gamify the wildfire problem or a disaster response, even better. And for the training of the public safety folks as well, if we can make them enjoy their training, they'll actually get more out of it, especially if it's immersive and relevant. Our current status to this day, believe it or not, we still use paper maps. That's the hood of a truck. 2D paper map, topo map. The information on that map is 12 to 24 hours old. So it's a sliver in history that has nothing to do with our reality at that time. We are trying to interpret where this fire is now most of the time. And we need to move beyond this. This I don't think is acceptable anymore. And that's, again, this digital era, we can do that. Below, we have the military. They had the same problem. They had paper maps. They also used sand tables, so we got this from them, where they would actually plan out their battle space and the coordinates, and it's sectioned off, and here's all their assets, and here's their, the enemy possibly over here, and they're going over an entire scenario. We took that, we do that same thing here. Small sand table, we have a whole bunch of little cars, little model fire trucks, and fake hose, and little trees we could put in the sand here, and we actually try to create a scenario. We do that to this day. In fact, we train incoming folks coming from other countries on our tactics using that same thing right now. Now imagine if we can model the hills just outside of Boise right here, which I guarantee we have a model of it right now in some capacity. And now we can show, instead of that sand table, we can immerse it, either doing AR or VR, and completely see it in 3D, see everything up to the trees, the weather, all the potential applications, and you could be anywhere in the world. That would give you much better context on what the problem is. Whereas this doesn't really send the message on, you have to have a good imagination. The reality capture will solve that issue. So basically, again, we're going into disaster digital twin. Right now, there's probably, 10 or 12 different satellites trying to image Florida as we speak. Both short aperture radar, high resolution, multispectral, you name it. What we really need is the super resolution, as far as whether it's LiDAR or high photogrammetry images, to figure out what do we have, and with our resources, how can we mitigate this as fast as possible? What are our priorities? And this is basically a similar, I don't know if anyone's played with Microsoft Flight Simulator, but they've gotten so good to where you can actually input real-time fires, well, real-time as far as the perimeters that are available, into Microsoft Flight Simulator, and you can actually attack that fire with one of their planes or helicopters, whatever you decide to fly. And this actually provides an amazing amount of training for aerial firefighters. So we know we have the capacity, we know we have the computing power to do something similar to this. But instead of just being a consumer version, we need a public safety version. No different than the military. I mean, the military's got some amazing stuff that they've been using like this for years and years and years. My challenge to you is, as you're in projects or as you're developing new technology, reach out to your local firefighters, your local police officers, and find out, is there anything that we've built, whether it's a BIM model or a new stadium scan or a as-built, whatever it is there any assets that they could utilize that you've created? And I guarantee there is. Now, there might be some interpretation problems as far as what application might they ingest that on. Are they going to download Bentley or a Revit or something like that? Probably not. Finding that software model that's going to have one basically be firefighter proof. Kind of just like in the military, it's got to be soldier proof. But I guarantee they can use it. Imagine if we had a digital image of this stadium right here. That would be super valuable for us to train on this over and over and over again. I could put, potentially light a fire backstage, or we could have a large emergency and go through that scenario over and over again without hurting anybody or damaging anything. So the assets that you guys are building right now can be utilized over and over again. And I highly suggest, and feel free to reach out to me. I would love to connect you in any right places I can. Just understand that repurposing those things is going to be a huge factor, especially building these high fidelity digital twins that, we need that information. If I could pop this digital twin or this, the data from this stadium into that digital twin, we're going to have that much more information instead of just relying on Google Tiles and Google Earth. So, and there's some potential revenue streams as well. The other exciting thing is now if we take all that information and instead of being heads down like I was talking about, is taking the new technology with the AR. In this case, this is the DigiLens Argo. It's mil-spec, and it's got just about anything you can ever imagine on it. From tracking cameras to the GPS modules, you name it. But to be able to just walk into the forest and see the exact data that's portrayed off of that digital twin, but now I can have even more perspective, and I can understand, okay, my troops are over there. That helicopter is the one that I need. His call sign's right there. The fire's right there, without looking down. So that's our next generation, similar to the military. They're already doing that now. It's the augmented reality system that like the HoloLens and stuff like that. But something less intrusive like this, we can do some serious work with your amazing data. I can literally walk this place and see where all the fire systems are. In where they've been put, the escape routes, you name it. So, again, another thing that excites me that I see as our next generation. Again, my name's Josh Wilkins. Fireline Solutions is my company. You can, my little scanner code up there, and feel free to reach out anytime. I'm always happy to assist on the public safety space, especially in the reality capture side. So I hope you guys have an amazing lunch, an amazing day, and thank you.